and J, an arts manager, educator, writer, musician, producer, and professional daydreamer.
And I'm Miguel, a musician, arts administrator, educator, and lover of all things nerdy.
And this is Playblack, a podcast dedicated to nerddom, reviews, and hot takes on arts and culture and the human experience from the perspective of two melanated artists.
Just think of us as your typical anime bros, but maybe with like master's degrees.
And therapy.
Yes, emphasis on the therapy.
Heavy emphasis. Speaking of which, how are you doing? How are you feeling? How's your spirit? How's your heart chakra?
I am both tired and happy that there's so much to do.
You
know, like I am by happy that there's so much to do. I mean, like I'm happy that we're doing this and that we're on this. I don't want to call it a grind because it doesn't feel like that, but like there's constantly something for us to like figure out and do. And there's cool opportunities coming up for us that we just found out about that we now have to actually make happen, which is fun.
Yep.
But overall, okay. I started watching things again in earnest because I was getting shade from my this guy that I know.
Shade, accountability. I don't know what to call it.
Shadeability. I don't know. It's
shadeability.
but it worked, and I have actually been catching up on X-Men 97.
Wow.
And I am here to report to you, Jay, that I think it's excellent, and your shadeability worked. So there it is.
Let me ask: Did you enjoy what you were shadeability? What you were asked to? When you know how I feel like right now, that little white boy. When he persevered, and so too shall I. What are the two words I'm trying to say? Accountable and shade. When you were held accountable, there we go. Super easy. Yeah, sure. When you were held accountable, was it a joyful accountability that you ended up in?
You know, sometimes there's just a block. Like, you know, when someone tells you to do something and you're like, I don't want to do that. Stop telling me what to do. Actually, stop that. Yeah. It was a bit of that. And I'll own that, and that's something that you don't grow out of.
True. Yeah.
But as soon as I heard like I was like, oh, why did I wait?
Yeah.
Why did I not give myself this little bit of dopamine joy? Why did I not do that? And yeah, I've watched the first 2 episodes at the time of this recording. I think 4 episodes are out.
Yep.
I know, Jay, you're caught up, but before I hear your thoughts on X-Men 97, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I love to be on my couch in my home. Amen. And since like last weekend, just you and I hit the ground running, and then I had more stuff after that, and then I presented at a conference on Tuesday at the ass crack of dawn. And 8
so there's been... is not the ass crack of dawn.
It absolutely is. Listen, I had to be out of this house by 7:40 in the morning, and so people think I'm like being hyperbolic or dramatic when I say that like I'm not built for mornings, but I literally, my body has a physical reaction. Like I sneeze a lot, like I can't really breathe. I found that my eyes were burning this time. About 20 minutes into the day, literally my eyes were burning, and it was such a big deal because I was like, maybe I'm like forcing them to stay awake so that I don't like stay open so I don't fall asleep. So I was like, I could close them just to like let the moisture build back up. But then I was like, but then you'd fall asleep. So like literally burning eyes. 20 minutes into the event, after I've met people, including the dean of the college, I realize my shirt is inside out. Okay. And so I'm just like, this is not. And the discussion was public historians talking about the legacy of slavery and how to get reparations, the social praxis of art and community and moving things forward. And like, I have to lead part of that. So I'm just like intellectually, aggressively high, lots of doctorates in the room, ass crack of dawn, inside out shirt. So I was fighting for my life in these streets. But it went well.
Okay.
And then, I consider myself a Beyonce fan, not necessarily part of the Hive. I'm just like, as an objective musician, I feel like I'm able to have an objective appreciation for what I think is one of the most skilled artists of our time. And that being said, like because it's subjective, sometimes the work, take it or leave it. Some things I like, some things I don't.
Mhm.
Renaissance, largely not for me. There were some songs I enjoyed there, but I'm like, this is not the album for me. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? However, Cowboy Carter has dropped, and I'm just like, oh, this is when they be talking about, is there crack in these albums? Because people can't stop listening to them. I'm just like, I think I get it. I think I
Okay.
understand.
Yeah.
And then lastly, we have a table read coming up on Sunday with the full cast
Sure.
for the audio drama. And last night, a few of us were rehearsing, and then my friend Jamise um, read all 9 episodes I had written, and I'm at the stage right now because the artist life cycle is a loop. I'm in the part of the loop where I'm just like, am I trash? Am I horrible? Should I? No one should be allowing me to do this. Yes, and
Yeah.
having someone read it and give feedback was nice. And so I was like, and I think it was helpful that happened, so that I can kind of go into Sunday not coming in with that spirit as the writer and director, and I come in a little bit more confidently. So yeah, that's me. That's me.
Okay. So I'm hearing roller coaster
Which is my
a little
life.
bit.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But roller coasters are inherently, I was going to say safe, and then I thought about it.
Yeah, I don't get on
Uh,
roller coasters. Yeah. Hmm. Hmm.
fun. They're supposed to be fun. They're
I
supposed to be
will.
something that gives you a ride.
There's a thrill. Hmm.
Yes. They get
Hmm.
you from point A back to point A.
Sure. Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
uh, you know, I'm just
Yeah.
going to go ahead and say I think you're doing great, and I
Thank
think
you.
I think the project that you're working on, that I'm also working on,
Hmm.
is going to be great. I truly think that, even though
Thank
I'm
you.
also in my artist cycle of like, I shouldn't. Why did you ask me to do this? Is a
Yeah.
bad idea.
Classic. Classic. Hmm.
Yeah.
Normal part of the
Uh,
process.
we did hit the ground running last week,
Hmm.
and went to Anime Boston, which was huge. First
Hmm.
time we were out in the streets just interviewing people. We
Yeah.
didn't interview as many people as we wanted to, but
Yeah.
it was a very eye-opening experience, and I thought pretty productive. And I already have so many
Absolutely.
ideas for next year.
Yeah.
You are all going to see a vlog on our YouTube channel over the next couple of weeks, kind of detailing our experience a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, it was just a really fun time, honestly.
Yeah, it was a good time. I think there is for sure a there's for sure, I think, sometimes in our nerd community, ideas about who we are and who we can be in terms of like how we socialize and in these spaces.
Hmm.
And I think you and I are both introverts for sure, and so that played a large part into our experience of this. But I think all those things given, we had a good time. I think I genuinely enjoyed myself, maybe more than I even anticipated. So I was happy about that, and I'm glad to, now that we have the lay of the land, take that further next time. Um, but speaking of just like, visiting and revisiting things, there are so many adaptations that exist
Adaptations,
nowadays,
yes.
particularly live action adaptations. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But first, I want to talk about, since you mentioned that you did your homework, because you were being a responsible, co-host and producer of a nerd
Oh,
podcast.
the way I want to flip you off right now.
um, Technically, an adaptation that exists is the revival of the 90s animated X-Men. And it has returned in animated form to much acclaim,
Yeah,
although also a little bit of drama, because right before it dropped,
right.
um, the EP who wrote most of the episodes for season 1 and 2 gone. Was allegedly going to be a part of the press tour, was going to do all of these things, but all of a sudden, uh, I can't say fired, because according to a Disney executive, they would not characterize it as a firing.
Hmm.
However, completely gone. No explanation given, not a part of the press tour, and deleted all of their social media. And this is a black queer man that did all of this. So, particularly given how successful it's been, everyone's been like, "What happened here?" Because this feels very dramatic for something that's gone well. So I definitely want to talk about that for a second. But
Yeah.
overall, I want to know, how are your thoughts? How are your feelings? Did you watch a lot of the 90s X-Men, and how did it feel to kind of come into this new one?
I did watch a decent amount of it. I wasn't as on it as I think my older brother was. So it
Mm,
was definitely one of those vicarious things that you kind of take
mm,
in by osmosis.
hmm.
There are certain things that are like lived in my like soul,
Yeah,
um, like the theme for sure. Like
sure,
any single
absolutely.
time I hear the theme or see
Yeah,
that like initial crawl with the
yeah,
big, it's just like, oh, I know exactly what I'm watching, listening to, et cetera, et cetera.
yeah.
Really quick, I looked it up. I believe the showrunner's name was Bo
Bo
DeMayo.
DeMaio. Hmm.
DeMayo. Um, Black Queer Man. And from what I've seen so far, it did a fantastic job.
Yeah,
I mean, honestly, I think the writing's spot on, and it still
yeah,
captures that '90s feel while still updating a few things. Like
yeah.
I was watching with a buddy, and he aptly like, "Hey, do you notice that Storm is like
Darker.
not very light skinned?
Yeah.
Like went from like Halle Berry to like Lupita Nyong'o, you know, like."
Hmm.
And I'm like, yo, you know what? I didn't even think about it because I've always just read Storm as just a
Right.
black woman, but like,
Yeah.
yeah, no, she's definitely a lot more chocolate, that's for sure.
Hmm.
And you know,
As
though,
was Bishop.
right, Bishop is he is my man might be Dominican. I don't know, like
Hmm.
he looks it.
Hmm.
Um, but immediately I was just watching the first like three scenes, those big themes of, or I wouldn't even say themes, but like it's obviously an allegory for anyone who's been othered, right?
Right.
In society, probably more analogous to like the LGBTQ community
Mm.
or just like black folks during the
Yeah.
60s.
Yeah.
But it's just great writing, and the
Yeah.
way that like I think in the second episode someone just calls someone like a dirty mutant, and I was like,
Right.
first I was like, oh, like
Yeah.
it felt like someone had just like yeah, I don't know, like sputtered off the N word or whatever.
That monologue that guy gives as he's fighting Cyclops in the hallway about like, you know what I hate about you people, how you always
Yeah,
complain. Like that, I was just like, this feels like any white aggressive Trumpian on the internet right now. Like that was
right.
giving that.
And I mean that whole scene was so January 6th
Mm-hmm.
insurrection like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
inspired. It felt
Mm-hmm.
like it felt so relevant in that way.
Yeah.
So like the two scenes that I've seen, I mean, I think Magneto's um Magneto's always been like Malcolm X to
Right.
um, Professor
Xavier's
Xavier's
Martin.
Martin, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's always been the thing. But like seeing him take over sorry, spoilers for the
Yeah,
first
there's
two
gonna be a lot of
episodes.
spoilers because y'all should have been watching this.
Yeah,
Okay.
spoilers for the
So
first two episodes.
mm-hmm.
My bad. Um, Magneto shows up in this. It, at the end of the old series, Charles was he kind of died. He didn't actually die. He kind of got taken away
Right.
by an alien. There's
He's
a
departed.
lot to take in if
Mm-hmm.
you really want to go back and watch, honestly.
Mm.
But he is not on the Earth.
Right.
And in his will and testament, he actually gave the X-Men and his fortune and everything to his arch nemesis slash best friend
Yeah.
Magneto. I think they
Yeah.
should kiss, honestly. Like it's
It's given
there.
they have a history.
It's
Amen.
given they have a history, like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um and they but Magneto gives these really powerful speech about
Oh, barn burner speeches.
I am a god, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I could smite your ass. Like I could
Yeah.
really like just destroy everything. And I've
Yeah.
been trying to do that, and I'm trying a different way. Do not make me go back on my word, basically. And
Don't make me let you down. And I was just like,
give him the forecast, Jay. Like
ugh. Listen, don't get me started on this writing, which is again, where's Bo? But yeah.
yeah. So I would love to hear more about what happened. I think he's been pretty silent on it as
Right.
of right now, and
Yeah.
Disney is given their standard corporate answers, so whatever.
Yep.
But so far, I'm really enjoying it. You're a couple of episodes ahead of me. What do you think?
You know, it's interesting because there's been a lot of justice for Cyclops people coming out, and they've been talking about how the adaptations of X-Men that we got for a long time didn't really do justice to the Scott Summers of the comics, and this revival is a lot closer. And it's been interesting to see that because, you know, in a lot of ways, he just feels like typical archetypal white boy, right? Of
Yeah,
just like not really that special. His powers were never really that interesting to me. He always seemed to kind of have a stick up his ass. Very teacher's pet, and so I've never been drawn to him as a character.
Right.
But I will say, in this revival, already I find him infinitely more interesting.
True.
Because I think, as someone who was a leader, the exhaustion he displays sometimes of having to manage, I'm just like, boy, I get it. That is, yeah, I can only imagine the hijinks that you have to deal with these fucking people. And Logan just always being contrarian. And I think his powers, I think this was even the first time I understood that they're kinetic and not like heat.
Yeah. They're
And I was like,
they are
oh,
they are concussive blasts. That's how I've
right.
always thought about them. Yeah.
And so now, like, when he's like bobbing and weaving using the blast, I'm just like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's a lot more interesting. Listen, Storm has always been my favorite. I love her dramatic ass in this adaptation. And in the original 90s one, how she's always giving soliloquies just to send in a gust of air. And I'm just like, never change, Aurora. And the respect that got put on her name, where, you know, she's not the tank, but like she's the nuke, right? And so when he's just like, oh, looks like we're getting overwhelmed. All right, let's bring out the big guns, give him the forecast. I was like, that's right. And then she soliloquies and destroys like 10 of the machines.
Soliloquies with like beautiful music, like the music has been one of the highlights for me, because it's just like it's kind of like chill and basic and kind of weird 90s whatever, etc. But then like there are moments where it's like, no, we're gonna bring it all down. We're just gonna do some crazy piano. We're gonna bring in some synth strings right up top, while again, not Halle Berry, but
right.
Storm out here just like soliloquies your ass into I don't know, another dimension. It's been really a lot of fun to revisit these characters, and they really like it. It just feels like they are fans, and they really
100%.
love the property. Wanted to treat it with the respect it deserved, with the budget it deserved, because that's the other thing. Like, I think one of the reasons that like Scott always came off, well, Scott was always kind of a Boy Scout for sure, but seeing his powers in use, they would have never had the budget to do that. Like one,
that's such fine work.
No, we're seeing how his eyes move. We're seeing all these cool glint effects off of his glasses. We're seeing a lot of things that they would have never been able to do on the shoestring budget they were making the show on back in the mid to late 90s. By the way, I was just like doing some research because I was just curious. Like they had like a quarter of the budget of the Batman the Animated Series.
Wow.
And like they still created that level of product, which is pretty crazy. And they weren't as overworked as the Batman folks. And I know it's DC Marvel, like I totally get it, but it's interesting. They were both like phenoms of animated superhero stuff at the time, and they were competing because they really just cared that much.
Yeah. I do love it. And to your point about how much they love it, I've watched some cast interviews. One, the show had a lot of the original cast re-audition for their roles. So some of them are folks that came back, but again, they had to re-audition to be there. And then for some of the ones that are new, and the 3 new actors, I believe, are, and there could be more, but I know for a fact that these are some of them, Cyclops, Jubilee, and
Professor X?
Cajun. I'm throwing cards. Gambit.
Gambit, yeah.
And what's so wild to hear them talk about it is like the guy who plays Gambit dressed up for Halloween as a child as Gambit, like loved it, did the voice all the time. Like it's such a full circle moment for him and the actress that plays Jubilee in particular of just growing up and loving this thing so much and getting to be a part of it. And so that's exciting to see people who love it so much. I will say the one critique that I have, and this is a huge spoiler alert, is what happens to Storm at the end of the second episode. And I don't hate it because I understand the storyline is a very important one of the comics, and you know, it helps her really become more multifaceted and see herself not as just as the goddess, but as the person. And I get that. But I feel like it doesn't really take into account our perception. Yeah, the girls are going off in the back. So when they hear this, I hope they feel ashamed. It doesn't take into account, right? Which is, I'll take a step back. the moment in the first episode where Scott goes, give him the forecast, and then the Sentinels say, Omega level threat detected, and Storm comes out. It felt to me that that was a very intentional choice to kind of reclaim the stature that Storm should have in pop culture. How there's always been this debate about is she Omega level or not. Like, it felt like a put some respect on her name moment, very intentionally put in there by the writer, which for me meant that they were taking into account the public perception and the public history of this character. So to then depower her in the second episode to give her this arc, I was just like, if this show was in season 2 or 3 and we'd been used to seeing a powerful Storm, I wouldn't be as mad at this. But again, taking into account the years of just being underwhelmed by that, I feel like to be robbed then of her full glory when we had a taste of it, I just that bothered me. So I know that I'm being a little, specific there. But I would have liked to spend more time feeling like the character had been done justice before this particular storyline came out. But that's my one gripe so far. And it also moves a little bit quickly, which we see in 3 and 4 in particular. It's like burning through story sometime to the point where like it kind of relies on you needing to know the comic storyline to like not get lost in it. But overall, wonderful adaptation.
Yeah, I am willing to just wait it out. I haven't seen episodes 3 and 4, so maybe you're obviously more informed in that regard. But I'm willing to see, because if they pull off the arc that she has in the comics, and it pops off like I think it's going to pop off, like not having her in powered in episodes 3, 4, and however long that goes on, might be worth it. It might be, right? Maybe. But we'll see. But this is a really amazing adaptation. We're actually talking about live action adaptations today, because there have been so many, and it's something we want to delve into more about, like what makes a good adaptation, because we've actually seen pretty okay examples and some not okay examples. And we thought it'd be fun to make a little tier list based off of some random adaptions that we thought of. So when we get back, we're actually going to dive right into the Playblack with a live action adaptation tier list.
Okay, and we are back. We are going to, as we mentioned, kind of rank some of these live action adaptations. Now, we pulled from, I would say, across different places. So there's going to be some that you would expect us to talk about, maybe some that you would not expect us to talk about. And as Miguel mentioned, we're going to go more in detail on what makes a good adaptation and kind of maybe doing deep dives into some of these. But for today, we are just going to rank these. Now, we have ranking from the bottom D all the way up to S tier adaptations. Miguel and I have not talked about these in advance.
We have not.
We do not know, but we also have to agree. So this should be really interesting.
It should be interesting. For those of y'all who are only listening, we do have a tier list kind of live that we're going to be referring to as we go along. So maybe check out the YouTube and see our lovely faces. I'm not.
You might want to YouTube this one.
I'm not exactly looking my best today, but we can get there. We can figure it out.
I'm in a robe because I'm not going to bring it up. It's just, it is what it is. We've had this conversation.
It is what it is.
What are we getting started with? What's the first property?
Let's start with the most recent. Let's start with Avatar, the Netflix adaptation.
The Netflix adaptation of Avatar. Oh boy. How far did you get?
I finished it.
Oh, wow. I don't think we've talked about it that much since.
Oh dear. Okay.
Yeah, I did not finish it. I have a litany of feelings about this one, and I'll surmise them pretty quickly.
Okay.
The final straw for me was the episode where Boomy was introduced, because it was emblematic of a few things. of what I felt were wrong with the entire series. In this episode, Boomy was mean and a little bit cruel.
Yeah.
And that was a departure from the intelligence and kind of kooky genius that he displayed in the original,
Mm.
of like testing Aang and appearing to many people, even his own constituency, as mad, right?
Mm-hmm.
But actually being very intelligent, very smart, and being kind of that White Lotus member.
Yeah.
And while I think that there could have been room in this attempt to make him more multifaceted, to still incorporate what I thought the live action was going for, which was a resentment that he might feel towards Aang
Mm-hmm.
for not being there when the world needed him. I feel like having that could have been a part of a larger whole.
Sure.
But it felt like that just kind of overtook his personality. Not to mention at the end where he decides to go to war, really took me out, because one thing that I appreciated about Boomy in the original was his emphasis on weight. And he talks about how there's three types of Jing, right?
Oh, sure. Sure. Sure.
Um,
Sure.
there's the attack, defense, and neutral Jing.
Mm-hmm.
And he also said neutral Jing is so important because that's what a good earthbender is. And Aang, when you need to find a teacher, find one, someone who waits and listens. And then he allows Omashu to be taken because he's waiting and listening. And then he wins back Omashu on the day of Black Sun because he waited and listened and knew when to attack. And so again, I was just like,
Mm-hmm.
this, and that was so critical to who he was and how he thought and
Yeah.
how he moved. And so I was just like, this is not that. And then with the Cave of Two Lovers, it was so iconically the first time we kind of get this Angatara bit. And again, I know that the writers were trying to use that to bring the siblings closer together, but I was like, but why do that in something that was so iconically about something else? And so it just felt to me like, in service of trying to unnecessarily make it darker,
Mm-hmm.
to make it more dramatic, even though they said that they were fans and cared so much about the story, I just found them taking liberties in ways that didn't make sense. And there could have been other ways to go about it.
Mm.
And I wasn't enjoying it. And at one point I had to be like, why am I forcing myself to sit through this? I don't enjoy it, and it's not giving me anything. And so I stopped. So no higher than a C for me. Like, yeah, some might enjoy it. So I won't say D. Like, I don't think it's necessarily
Yeah.
trash, but for sure not high.
Okay. I think the compromise is going to have to be C. I think it could be a B adaptation considering the other what it's kind of going up against, because there's a lot of trash here.
Yeah.
So here's my thing. I think those are episodes like 2, 3, and 4 is I think are the ones that you're talking about.
No, like 5 or 6. I made it a little. I think it's probably episode 5.
Okay. Or yeah, probably they probably get to Amashu for episode 3, and then there's like a two-parter for like 4 or 4 and 5, I think. I thought that 3 and 4 were really strong episodes, and I didn't mind the jaded Boomy, because I kept on asking, like, why are you doing this? Like, why are you even making this adaptation, right? And for me, like, if you're going to make the adaptation, there are certain things that have to change, just medium to medium. And in that translation, if you're looking to make it more adult, then sure, I think that was fine. I didn't the two lovers the thing with the brother sister dynamics. I thought that was pretty clumsy. I didn't really love that. But I see what they were doing, because the character that they've set up for Aang and the character that they set up for Katara aren't there yet.
No way.
And I think they had, like, in the show, there's a lot more time to get there. So I understood that. That was fine. And I think it was a chance to showcase Sokka, who's a very strong. I think he was one of the stronger bits of the trio, between Aang, Katara, and Sokka. So I was more forgiving of it. I thought the adaptation overall, the strongest bits of it were always Uncle Iroh, and the things that we didn't see in the original series, that were brought to light in the live adaptation. I don't know what the right word is. those were so strong and made me I really love the series. It also made me feel like, why didn't you just do a Kyoshi series? Why didn't
Yeah,
you?
why do we
Because
need this?
why didn't
Yeah.
you just do an Avatar one, or something we hadn't actually seen before?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because we
Mm-hmm.
would have eaten that up, and seeing it in live action, and you can, because it's not something that we're so like married to.
Yeah.
We would have. I think we would have been so much more accepting of it.
Or even a show set during the 100-Year War. And if you wanted it to be dark, why not set it during that time where there was no hope and there was no Avatar? And maybe the finale is the boy in the iceberg. You know what I mean? Which is that.
Right.
What I will say about Eero really quickly, I think it was in that same episode where he gets taken by one of the Earth Kingdom
Mhm.
guards, and they bring up, and I like that they brought up like,
He's a war
as much as
criminal.
we love stuffy fluffy Eero,
Yeah.
he is a war criminal, right? Like this man, like killed a lot of people, did a lot of bad shit. But what I didn't appreciate was when Eero had the chance to fight back, he spared him, but there was a lack of empathy and compassion I was getting from Eero in that moment.
Mm.
And the reason it bothered me was because this is a man who at this point is supposed to like have a spiritual practice and has visited the spirit world and has some more of that natural empathy and all those other bits. And I was just like, it feels like again you're making this darker and more mature, and I'm just like, there are just little moments that to me are central to who these people are that keep getting missed out on, and that bothered me. Also, where was Roku? I love Kiyoshi. Why is she functioning as Roku was functioning?
Hmm.
That didn't make sense to me either,
It
and I
almost
was just
seemed
like,
like they were afraid of the fans.
right, something.
So they saw all this Kyoshi love. I did love the Kyoshi scenes. All right,
Loved Kiyoshi. Yeah.
we're gonna be here for like 2 hours if we take as much time on this.
Amen. I'm
On
sorry. This is just the most recent. I'm sure it's the one we're gonna have the most feelings
for sure.
on.
I would
Yeah.
probably put this at a B minus.
As an adaptation or as a show?
As that, I will legitimately say as an adaptation, because I think the things that I loved were the things that they added.
Okay.
And I think there is skill in that.
Hmm.
Um, and book one is probably my least favorite book.
Hmm.
Out of the three, there's not as much. There's a lot of character, um, just kind of exposition that
Yeah,
it's not as interesting in that way. So I don't know. I think there's room to grow. I will watch season two and season three. I'll be the representative on this one. I'll do my homework there.
I'll try every season because maybe it was actually just announced today that Albert Kim, the showrunner, has stepped down.
Oh.
He will still be the executive producer, and it's not a demotion.
Mhm.
It seems like he got a deal at Netflix, and he's also going to be working on. Oh my God, Percy Jackson. We didn't put that on this list. It's another adaptation we should have talked about.
Okay.
Um, and he's going to be working on that. So, but there are two new showrunners in there. So who knows? Maybe it
Yeah,
will be different enough next season that
for
I'll
sure.
take a little look see.
Yeah, I'm going to pause you really quick. Can you
Yeah.
turn down your volume in your cans?
Oh, were we getting echoes?
I'm getting a little bit of echo.
I don't have echo cancellation. This can't be changed while recording. Okay. Well, and then what I'll do is I'll maybe do that. All right.
Cool. All right. Moving on to the next one. Jay, I picked the first one. Out of this list, what do you want?
It's really right. Let's do American Gods, the first of our Neil Gaiman adaptations on the
Where did I
list.
put you?
I actually don't know what I would grade it. You know, I'm gonna also give this one a C, and here's why.
Interesting.
I loved the first season, and then Brian Fuller, the creator of the show, was fired, and then seasons 2 and 3 really just kind of stumbled and lost their way. And so, if it were just a matter of season 1, I would probably B or A, even A, like on
Wow.
the lower side of A, I think maybe, because I thought, you know, that book, while so intriguing, is so strange and so cerebral in some ways, and to pull out. And I feel like it's not a very plotty book. There's some books that are like, this thing is happening and this thing. It was very much a character study and a study of just like ideas. And so to make a coherent show out of that is difficult. And I thought that first season did it really well.
Hmm.
It was visually so stunning. So yeah, and then I think season 2 and 3 just kind of it just stumbled. It just stumbled. But yeah, overall I enjoyed it.
I saw, I think, the first episode of the adaptation. I've read the book twice, I think.
Mm,
I just love um, Orlando Jones playing against type. Whenever Orlando
so
Jones
good.
is like dramatic, I'm just like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Dramatic comedians. I just
like
listened to an interview today about Martin Short doing a drama thing, and it was phenomenal.
it's really amazing. So I'm not gonna,
Mhm.
I think B or C is fine for me, but
Yeah,
the first season I definitely would have put in that
absolutely.
B place. But
Yeah.
all right, next one. Next one's for me. Oh, this is an interesting one. How about Rurouni Kenshin?
Oh. Now this is interesting because I've never seen the anime. I've only ever seen the live action movies.
Right.
But Miguel has never seen the live action movies
Mm-hmm.
and has only seen the anime show and the anime movies.
And I read the manga. Yeah.
And the manga.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you something. These movies phenomenal. And again, I had no buy-in, but I love a good action movie. And what I will say is like the fight choreography, fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
Standout in this thing. Like not even for an adaptation, just in terms of like a movie in which there was choreo, fucking phenomenal. Um, the movies are really rich. The characters are great. They're dark, but not like too dark. It's pretty evenly plotted and paced. I really enjoyed those films. I really thought they were just like overall great quality films. And it was how I first discovered the band, who's of course now I'm going to forget their name, but they did the opening, and I love them. I love them, and I've seen them in concert, even though I literally right now cannot think of what their names are. But yeah, I really loved those adaptations. Although technically, I can't compare them to the original.
I mean, I've seen some of the fight scenes just to check them out, and like because
Yeah,
everyone is telling me you gotta watch these, like you have to
yeah,
watch these. And I think I was struggling to watch them because of what was going on with the author at the time, which we don't necessarily need to get into.
yeah.
But that being said, like what I saw of the cinematography, the fight choreography, I think this is an easier anime to adapt in that like while there are some like a very unbelievable feats of strength and power,
Mm.
uh, generally it's just swordplay.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if that's easy to adapt overall, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's an interesting time in Japanese history, and like I think it's is it during the Meiji Restoration, like
Mm.
like after, um, like basically like the downfall of the samurai as their social
The
class, and
samurais,
like
yeah. Mm-hmm.
basically they were getting westernized. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's just a really fascinating time, and I think there are a lot of really cool anime and manga based in that time period between the Edo period and the Meiji period. So, yeah, I'm having just on fight scenes alone. I'm gonna go ahead and put it as our first A.
I agree. And the band is One OK Rock.
One OK Rock. Check them out.
Yeah, wonderful band.
Mm.
Okay, next let's do no, I want to do one that we've both seen. Maybe Pokemon? Let's do the Detective Pikachu.
I think people sleep on this movie.
I will say I am not a huge Ryan Reynolds fan, which made this movie hard for me. I find him to be himself in every movie. This was just Ryan Reynolds as Pikachu as opposed to Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool or Ryan Reynolds as
Green
any other
Lantern
character he
or
plays.
yeah.
Um, and so, however, that being said, I think the things that I really appreciated about the movie, that actually felt like an expansion from what we're used to,
Mm-hmm.
was how Pokemon were integrated into
That
society.
was really cool. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And huge fan of Justice Smith. And so yeah, I thought it was a great one. There, I would say that like I don't remember being particularly like moved by it or like really having a standout memory. So I feel like the highest I could go was B. But
Hmm.
I can't even really point to any problems aside from again, I felt like Ryan Reynolds was Ryan Reynolds. But overall, I thought it was really interesting.
I would agree with B for me. Honestly, like it was just a fun movie.
Yeah.
It was a fun like movie. I think the I was when I first saw trailers, I was like, do we need this? Is that something that we actually need to do?
Mm.
Um, and then I saw all the little bits that we wouldn't have never thought about, like how Pokemon were integrated into society, and
Hmm.
um, I do find Ryan Reynolds look generally funny, so I think I
Mm.
have a leg up there.
Mm.
But uh, yeah, I think B tier is solid for that one.
Mm.
Let's go. Ooh, let's go Death Note.
Yeah, I didn't watch this one. I have seen. Oh Lord, people about to drag me. I have watched neither the anime
What?
nor the adaptation.
What?
There are some, and I while in some ways the anime I love are basic, right? Like we all know I love my Demon Slayer, and I wouldn't call that basic, or My Hero Academia also wouldn't call that basic. Um, Naruto also wouldn't call that basic. Those are very entry level anime, honestly, in the same way that I think Death Note is, right? Death Note is also for a particular kind of person, like Death Note, Tokyo Ghoul, Psychopaths. Like those are also ones that I heard of a lot.
Mhm.
However, I don't know, something, it's the hipster in me. While it's like, while I'm as basic as I am with my shonen, for my other ones, I was like, no, I want like deeper cuts. Like, I don't want this. And so there's no real reason. And I think by now, so much of it has been spoiled. You know what I mean? Just by being
Sure.
in anime circles, like there's nothing that's going to surprise me about that show now. So it also de-incentivized me. So I don't have much to offer here except don't cast mainly white people in anime adaptations. That's the top of the thing that comes top of mind for me. But that's all I can offer to this.
um. All right. Well, I think. Hmm. Hmm. So I've seen both.
Okay.
The I think the what's great about the excuse me. What's great about the anime is
Mm-hmm.
like every episode it's a little puzzle. So
Hmm.
basically, the whole premise, Jay, which I think you know the premise, but just for those who haven't checked it out in a while, is basically there's this like really, really, really smart, kind of like top of his class student. He's the son of the police chief. I don't remember exactly where it's set. It might be set in Tokyo. But
Hmm.
um, he's like a really high achieving kind of like pretty boy, and he's kind of bored. Um, and one day this book falls from the sky, and it turns out the book is from a Shinigami, like a death god. And uh, it turns out if you write the name of somebody who you know or not, there are different rules, but if you write the name of somebody, they immediately die. So he kind of, it's a power fantasy, so he just kind of takes this like I could change the world with this kind of thing,
Hmm.
and starts like killing criminals, and like I am the justice, and I am all this kind of stuff.
I am the vengeance. I am the night.
Yeah, right. Like
Mm-hmm.
Batman without the money, but
Hmm.
with actual power.
With omniscience. Yes.
Right. Um, and then there's this super detective, um, called L, who figures out like that something weird is going on right away, and
Hmm.
basically it's just a battle of wits between these two characters trying to figure out how to uh uh Light Yagami is the kid,
Tag.
the kid, um and L is the detective, and Light is just trying to figure out how to kill L so he doesn't figure out what's going on, and L is
Hmm.
trying to figure out who Kira, who is the kind of pseudonym that Light
Hmm.
goes by, um, who he is, and bring him to justice, basically.
Yeah.
And it's just like cat and mouse thing the entire time. And
Hmm.
there's a lot of little bits of character development. And you know, his dad's the police chief, so he has to keep it from his family. And he's kind of there's a lot going on in the manga and in the show that you can't do in a movie set in Seattle. Like I don't I don't know. There's just so much going on in that you. It's so hard to bring it into like a what, like a 2 hour movie.
Sure.
What I will say that I really loved about the movie was the casting. I don't know what you remember
So
of
you
it.
liked the guy who played Light?
No,
Okay.
trash.
Okay.
Lakeith Stanfield is L.
Yeah, of course.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's great. And then Willem Dafoe as Ryuk is
Mm.
just like
Mm-hmm.
a stroke of genius.
Mm.
Um, I would say like it has a few things going for it. Like I want to put it in D tier, but seeing the other stuff we're going to end up putting in D tier, I feel like it's a C minus. Um, but it if there was an F tier, I would put this in a D tier. You know what I mean?
Sure. Sure.
So that's where I'll put it.
Okay.
If you're curious, it's only like you know, like it's a movie, so it's not really a a hard ask. You know,
Mm.
you could bang it
Mm.
out during a bad movie night and just like
Mm.
whatever, and just like watch Willem Dafoe be a fucking crazy death god, which is always
Yeah.
fun. And watch Lakeith Stanfield. It would sit funny,
Sure.
but I'm gonna put it in C tier for now. I might
Mm.
end up putting it in D tier later.
Okay. Speaking of D tier, we haven't shown it some love, so let's just, with I think a not a hot take, maybe just do two
Sure,
immediate D tiers.
sure.
Obviously, Dragon Ball Evolution. I did not read the full apology from this person, but actually, when Akira Toriyama passed, the star apologized for the adaptation, and I'm just like, good God, you know what I mean? That's from what I understand, the rest of it was very heartfelt. But if you have to apologize to the person whose work you adapted once they've passed, I think everyone can agree that you might be at the very bottom tier of an adaptation.
um, yeah, I completely agree. There seems to be a blank space here that I can't quite see what it is.
Oh, okay.
Um, and and
Yeah, I don't. It's weird.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know, for the folks listening, there seems to be like a blank space. I think I might be imagining someone with an arrow on their head.
Oh.
Um, I don't really know,
See,
but
I see an old lady. You see a young person?
yeah, it might be an old lady.
Mm.
Oh, directed by M Night Shyamalan. Yeah, okay, all right. So I think
Just
this might be the Berenstein Bears situation we had going on
right.
in a you know another world
Right.
where uh, M Night Shyamalan somehow got the keys to the car to
Yeah.
make a Netflix, not a Netflix, a live action adaptation of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, that would go in the D tier. So we're just gonna do that and put that blank
Yeah. If
space
that were to
there.
exist, that would go
Yeah,
there.
if that were to
But so we
exist, it would
can,
go there. Yeah.
if that's what you see in the Rorschach test that we're looking at. I'm also seeing Scarlett Johansson, and it's giving Ghost in the Shell. So we can just. I didn't watch that either, but again, stop casting white people as Asian people. So it's
Yeah,
pretty
I don't. I didn't
automatic for
see.
me.
I did watch the original Ghost in the Shell. I saw the trailer for this, and I was like, it's like you missed the point. I don't
Right.
like. Why did you do that? Um,
And I really enjoy ScarJo. She's a good actress, a good singer. I'm just like, not this, man. You should have
true,
said no.
and I think the thing about this time in adaptions, I think that came out around like 2017, around that
Yeah.
time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they were just going for spectacle, trying to grab onto like the MCU, like you know, like CGI fest type thing,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
just didn't work. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. It just didn't feel like they had any respect for the original movie, but
Yeah.
that's me.
Going in the opposite direction, it's funny. I'm like, I think I've identified Two S tiers, but let's not go there yet. Let's save them up. Um, I'm seeing. I'm seeing. I really I actually wonder how we'll feel about this one. Came out a couple years ago, and I had not seen the anime, but I was just like, I could see this maybe going well, and it ultimately did not. But of course, I'm talking about Cowboy Bebop.
Oh,
Um, Now here's what I'm gonna say about it. While I think we talked about it lightly, overall my impression was that they did not trust themselves enough to take ownership of the IP,
right.
and instead we're trying to honor it too much, that it became this kind of in between thing that was neither the heights of what it was and never really allowed to be given a chance for what it could be, and was then axed pretty quickly. However, I would not call it trash on the level of D.
No,
I just think it was unfocused.
it was kind
But
of
I think
it was kind of
I
boring.
would for sure say C. You know, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. It was just, they made Cowboy Bebop boring somehow. I don't know how you do that,
Huh.
but they somehow made it boring. I don't know. I like. I agree that it wasn't the worst thing ever,
Mm,
and the fact that Yoko Kano came back and redid the whole all of the music with most of the original musicians, and like
mm.
again, there was a
Oh,
lot of
that's nice.
love put into it, but
Yeah,
sometimes I feel like
that was its downfall.
right, but we were already talking about like what does and like I feel like there has to be a balance. You have to have the guts to push forward
Yeah,
while also respecting the material and
yeah,
and have a very specific vision. And this didn't
yes,
have a very specific vision. It just was like
exactly.
we're just going to do it. And it's going to be live action. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
And I don't know. And I mean, I really like John Cho as like an actor.
Same.
I've always liked him a lot, and you could
Yeah,
tell he really loved this role, but he just
yeah,
wasn't given anything to like chew on, like
yeah,
at
yeah,
all. And he was
yeah.
also honestly a little too old to do it. Spike is like a
Mm,
he's like a mid 20s, had a dangerous childhood,
mm-hmm,
teenage years, and is now
mm-hmm,
kind of reformed person. And John
mm-hmm.
Cho, he was in his mid 40s, right?
Yeah,
Something like that.
yeah,
It just didn't quite work. Although I did really love him overall in the
yeah,
role.
yeah,
No Al until like the very end. It didn't really make any sense. So,
yeah.
um, I'll take the next one. Speaking of an anime adaptation for Netflix, I'm gonna just go ahead and put Yu Yu Hakusho as the resident Yu Yu Hakusho fan in the D tier. That shit made me so mad, and I know. Hold on, give me my minute, Jay, because I will tell you that there are that there are things about it that I didn't hate. I did not hate the first episode overall. I think it dragged a little bit. The fight choreography was super clean. Really enjoyed a lot of that. I thought Hiei looked great. Um, and I don't know. It felt like they were. It was like 5 episodes, 6 episodes, something like that.
Maybe like six.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And it felt like they knew they weren't getting a second season, and the people that were adapting it wanted to adapt the entire series. This is you can't adapt
yeah,
hundreds of chapters into 6 episodes
yeah.
and expect anything to land. The Dark Tournament by itself would be maybe two
A
seasons.
season, right?
Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but I think if you are interested in getting into Yu Yu Hakusho, do not watch this because it's going to ruin a bunch of arcs for you. That's me. I don't know.
I think the fact that there's anything redeemable about it means it's not D. Because if you look at the company it's keeping, one of them doesn't even exist. And the other two, there's nothing positive you can say about it. And what I will say about this adaptation, I thought the actor who played you were great, wonderful. I thought the
Mhm.
roles were well cast. I believed all of them. As you mentioned, the fight choreo was great. This was a problem of just like trying to it bit off more than it could or should chew,
Uh huh.
and they didn't pace well. But I'm just like, I genuinely enjoyed moments of it, and for me, automatically that means it can't be in D with the trash with the rest of them.
Ooh. Okay. I'm gonna ask for a compromise here.
Okay.
If if we move Yu Yu Hakusho up to C,
Uh huh.
I want to move Avatar up to B.
Fine.
For those of you who are listening, you have to watch this because the face that Jay's making right now is
Oh boy.
is priceless.
Okay.
Negotiation, partnership at its finest.
Yeah. You know, they say a good negotiation is when everybody leaves a little unhappy. And that's what that just gave. Yeah. All right. Let's do our first S tier adaptation. And going back to our boy Neil, I want to throw Sandman up there.
Yeah,
I think it's a little bit of a cheat because you have the creator involved in some way. And so there are just certain things that you don't have to worry about. Although I will say not everything that the creators make are always great, so there's difficulty there. But I think Neil has been cutting his teeth on TV recently, not even recently, over the past few years, and he's been show running some things. I think he's been growing to learn what it means to write in that medium. And Sandman has always been why I think it's also interesting is Sandman is another one of those things. I guess Neil just writes this way, where it's not necessarily plotty, right? Like it's very much following
yeah,
a character and exploring their lives and exploring issues and things that come up in this really richly realized world.
yeah.
And I think that's so dangerous and difficult to pull off as a television show. And I thought it was done phenomenally. I thought it really updated some things well. This is an author who's not afraid of, who isn't bogged down by like the audience and their negative whatevers, but also is responsive and understands that things can be updated. And so yeah, I just think it works kind of in every on every level. And I actually just saw a trailer today for Dead Boy Detectives, which is a spinoff set in the same universe, and it actually looked really good. So I'm just like, he's gonna be 2 for 2 for that one. And Good Omens is also wonderful. We didn't bring that up. I
Oh
forgot
yeah,
about that one,
yeah.
but also a wonderful adaptation. So Neil knows what he's doing. Neil knows how to adapt his work. So
I
yeah.
couldn't agree with you more. Honestly, like I thought,
Yeah.
I watched the series first and then went back and read some of Sandman, and um, just the atmosphere that he was able to create,
Mm,
um, I thought was just fucking excellent. And I
mm,
felt everything. I thought Gwendolyn Christie killed it.
phenomenal.
She was amazing in her role as basically the devil.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't. I can't really think of anything that I disliked about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, S tier. I completely agree.
Wonderful. Do
Um,
you have another S tier one here?
ooh, I don't know. Oh, this is gonna be controversial. Maybe I don't know. All right, let's talk about Game of Thrones.
All right, let's talk about it.
Let's talk about Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a distinction. I think
Okay. Are we
seasons.
ignoring the final season?
No, I think I'm gonna say seasons 1 through 4 are a step by step like masterclass
Yeah.
in adapting something as large as A Song of Ice and Fire.
Okay.
Um, I think there's very little I would change about seasons 1 through 4. It's what
Hmm.
makes seasons 5, 6, 7, and 8 so disappointing. Um,
I don't know if I ever heard a take that the back half of the 4 seasons weren't great. This is fascinating.
I here's the thing. I think season 5 is a bit of a downer. They change a lot of things. It doesn't really. I don't think it works as a season. It
Hmm.
leaves you completely dour with zero hope.
Hmm.
I liked season 6 a lot,
Hmm.
um, but they change characters and they turn them into these crazy archetypes in which they aren't in the books. I'm
Hmm.
just gonna give like an example of one character. Like Jon
Hmm.
Snow
Hmm.
is like a pretty. He's kind of billed in the show as this like kind of ultimate warrior who's just
Yeah.
honest to a fault.
Right.
That's not who he is in the books. He is a
Hmm.
smart politician. He observes. He's
Hmm.
quiet.
Hmm.
I would maybe not a politician, but he's a smart kid who's just like
Hmm.
growing to his own. And he doesn't get things by force. He does lie sometimes. He like
Hmm.
he's emotional, yes, but he's also like very empathetic.
Hmm.
So I like one of the reasons I'm really excited to finally get Winds of Winter at some point in the next couple of years, hopefully, um,
Okay.
is to see the continuation of that character, not this like
Sure.
ultimate warrior, you know, Jon Snow. He doesn't like. I remember specifically in the books, like he starts training in earnest like, in like book 4 or 5. Um,
Hmm.
it's because he's like, no, I should be a better swordsman.
Hmm.
Just to give you an idea of like how different they kind of brought the
Sure.
character, you know.
Sure.
So it's not that I don't like season 6, especially. There are
Uh-huh.
aspects of season 7 that I really like, and there are even
Hmm.
aspects of the first. I think the second episode of season 8 is probably one of my favorite episodes in the entire
Yeah, all of
series.
8 wasn't a wash.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like the
Hmm.
Night of the Seven Kingdoms, which for me was like all this
Hmm.
really beautiful character work, et cetera, et cetera. But
Hmm.
like when I'm looking at the back half as a whole,
Yeah.
compared to what the first half was as far as an
Yeah.
adaptation,
Yeah.
I would put the first half at S tier
Sure.
and the second half at C.
Which leaves us ultimately.
I guess at I guess it's a B.
No,
I
A.
know. I
Yeah. By the transitive property. No.
right.
um, I did not read the books. This is one of those rare times where to me, George feels a little Tolkien-esque in that like there's a thickness and a density to the text that I just have no interest in. The closest I came to it is when I was a kid reading the Aragon books, and that was fun then. But I got time today for that. So I can really only go off the shows. But I would agree with you that there was something lost after a while. And again, I was really sensitive to. I think the overall thing that I actually found lacking in the show, which is why it can't be an S tier for me, even though there were some moments that truly like changed television and like rocked me to my core emotionally, was that if there was a thesis of the show, I didn't understand it. I don't
Right.
think it was clear.
Right.
And if it is what I think it is, which is that people are the worst and that power ultimately leads people to be the worst, I don't agree. And so, yeah, I think that's why I'm hesitant on that one. Now, I'm going to say something controversial.
Mm,
That Bleach movie,
mm.
S tier. And
I haven't seen it, so I can't refute you. God
I
damn
know. Here's why I say that.
it.
I went in being like, this is going to be shit. And completely every moment pleasantly surprised. And I think this was really smart because when it was a movie, and I was like, how is that going to work? There's literally so much Bleach. How are we trying to do this in a movie? And I thought they had such discipline because all they did was they adapted the arc from when Ichigo first becomes a Soul Reaper. And literally, the big fight is against the good guy. What's his name? The one, is it Renji that has like the little dragon sword
He
thing
has like
with
red
the
hair.
blocks?
Red hair.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I think it's Renji.
Something like that. Um, that was the main one. That was the big fight, and I was just like, wow! And it was just done so well. The graphics were good. The acting was good. I might actually go back and watch that. And I was just like, in terms of adapting something, I had there were just no flaws. I was just like, okay, yeah, wonderful. So because I can't think of a way it could have improved, um, S tier adaptation, and I think you really should check it out, Miguel. I think you really should. I think you'd enjoy it.
I did read the first couple of arcs of Bleach, so
Did you never watch the anime?
no, I wasn't an anime person. Out of the big three, I kind of stuck it out with Naruto for the most part. But then even then,
Yeah.
I read more of One Piece and Bleach than I watched, and
Wow.
and I actually never watched all of Naruto all the way through. I did read it, week to week from the time I was a freshman in high school to when it ended when I was like a junior or senior in college.
Wow.
So when people talk about spoilers and Naruto and shit, I'm just like, or not spoilers, filler. I'm just like, I read a very good,
Hashtag can't relate.
yeah. Um,
What I will say is that with Bleach, that was one of the ones I started in my like rewatching of anime and like my reintroduction into it. And I kept finding myself as I would watch that show being like, no notes. Like every impulse I would have as a writer, it would follow. And I only fell off because of a filler arc. It was the Bount arc. And it was just made up in filler. And I hated every second of it. And I didn't even know that it was filler at the time. I couldn't get through it. And then it completely derailed the experience. So I have been watching the revival, except the revival is not for people who are new to the show. And it's been so long. I'm like, I don't know who some of these people is. So I'm just like, maybe I'll go back and try again one day. But yeah, I did enjoy Bleach. But okay. All right. Only 5 left. 5 left.
Yeah.
What's next?
We're going to burn through these a little quicker because we're running a little long here. I got an interesting one.
Yeah.
So y'all remember that Tom Cruise movie, Edge of Tomorrow?
Yeah.
From, I think it was like 2013, 2014, something like that. That's actually an adaptation of a manga. And honestly, it's pretty great. Like it's a pretty decent adaptation. It changes a bunch of stuff, for sure. But like it kind of owns the concept and like takes it to a cool place. Honestly, like
even with white people, even though I've been saying all night that white people shouldn't. Well, let me ask you this: are there new roles created for this, or are they like the counterparts of the protags in the anime?
Tom Cruise's character is a completely new fabrication from what I remember, for sure.
Well then, okay.
And then you know
Emily Blunt?
how some manga characters are like racially ambiguous.
Sure.
I don't know like who the white girl is supposed to be. So
okay.
So I'll take.
So maybe they didn't break the rule. All right.
Honestly, it's an A tier adaptation for me.
I remember, I didn't know that it was a manga. I remember being surprised at how much I enjoyed that movie, and I was just like, I would watch a sequel of this. So yeah, I stand by the A.
Yeah.
Great. Let's see, another A. I think I want to put Blue Beetle at A. Yeah, I thought it was so fun. I thought it brought the familial aspect. I thought was so true fun, and kind of was a new thing even for us as in a superhero movie. And I know Jaime a lot from, I think I want to say Young Justice. That's a lot of where I've seen him. And it felt true while still being different. And I thought there was more comedy, but I thought Sholo, phenomenal actor, just really grounded him. You believe him. He has this thing where like you want to root for him. Like he has this earnestness to him as an actor. Like when you watch him in Cobra Kai or this, we're just like, yeah, come on. And I think it really worked in the context of this film. So yeah.
I think he is going to be I think that Blue Beetle is part of James Gunn's new
It is
DC
one of the few people he kept.
So hey, we'll be seeing more of him. And I couldn't agree with you more. I thought like as a like Afro Latino person, like seeing like the superhero dynamic in that context was a lot of fun for me personally. And I thought they handled it pretty well. And I thought it was a good idea to not have it be am I getting it twisted? It's a movie, not a series. It was supposed to be a series.
I don't know what it was supposed to be, but it is a movie. Yeah.
Yeah. It originally was supposed to be a series. It was supposed to be like a couple. I want to say like a 8-episode miniseries or something like that. And I think they cut the fat and just like it's just one little solid thing. I think it made a lot of sense.
Honestly, though, I could see it working as a TV show too, even with all the beats. I think with some more room, obviously, it would have been more of a character exploration with like the family members and all that stuff. But yeah.
All right. A D tier, Full Metal Alchemist, the Netflix live action adaptation. Yeah,
Did they make 2 of them?
They made. Okay, here's the funny thing. I only put number 1 here. Number 2, it's way better.
Oh, what?
But number 2, I might put in like a C tier.
Sure. It's so like, they learn from their mistakes.
Well, they actually sit in it. You know, like
Sit in the mistake.
no, sit in with the characters and like
Oh, I
sit
see.
like
They take their
they
time.
actually
Got it.
take their
Okay.
time and like let shit happen.
Hmm.
And I think one of the big problems with live action adaptations of anime is that like they want to go hyper like no the Ed's cloak in Full Metal Alchemist is that color of red, so it has to be that color of red and has to look very brand new in
Mm.
the live action adaptation. It's like, no, you're adapting something. Why would it be that bright color of red? Are you sure it
Mm.
wouldn't be like kind of worn down or look,
Mm.
like they don't
Yeah.
really bring in like the real world aspect
They
to it.
want the visual iconography, but not like the reality. Yeah.
Exactly, which I think it's to its detriment ultimately.
Mm.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, so we got two more left here, and to be honest, I don't know my answers for either of these. We have one more that you all would expect, which is One Piece, the recent One Piece adaptation, and then one that's a little bit of a curveball, and that is The Little Mermaid featuring Halle Bailey. Um, I don't even know where to begin. I love Halle, and I loved. You know what? This actually makes me feel better. I say a B for The Little Mermaid, and the reason why I say the B is because as iconic as the original Little Mermaid is, it wasn't special to me. Okay.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm not necessarily the demographic for Disney princess movies. However, they were our bread and butter growing up as millennials. And that I'd never, I didn't really feel a particular connection to it. However, Hallie's version of Ariel, I found to have a little bit more grit and fire to
Mm.
her that I really appreciated. That rebellious spirit, I think, came out a little bit stronger. And I also like that she got more than one song, and she sang them both like fucking phenomenally. And I still listen to them sometimes. So yeah, I'm gonna say a B. I enjoyed the movie, actually did. Um, I thought what's his face who did Sebastian was just utter. It was not great, that West Indian accent. It was just, and it was so funny because he was such an actor about it. He's like, yes, I've studied in so and so when I listened to so and so, and it's like, well, it did not work, friend, because that was hot garbage, and there was no reason to. I find that that's actually one of the accents that most people don't get right whenever I see it in media, because there's just not enough representation for it. I think. And so it always hits my ear and not in a good way. So yeah, did you watch Little Mermaid?
I didn't. It always feels like stunt casting. Like David Diggs is Sebastian. Like
Right, that was a for sure stunt
you
casting. They
know,
should have got somebody who was from the Caribbean to be that. Period. Point blank.
right? Yeah, I don't know. I didn't see it. I'm not a huge. I don't dislike Disney, but like the live action adaptation craze, like I
Yeah,
remember when they announced Lion King, and I was like, "Oh shit!"
yeah,
Beyonce, Childish Gambino, like stunt
yeah.
casting, like right, like
Right.
all this stuff. And then like I heard the reviews, and I was like, I don't want to taint what is like one of the best like animated movies of like all time for me.
Yeah,
In the Lion King,
yeah.
I don't need that. So I just didn't
And I
have.
think there's some things. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. There's some things that should be reviewed and some things that shouldn't reviewed. That should be adapted and some things that shouldn't. I remember one big criticism of Lion King, which I also didn't watch, was that the faces couldn't emote. And I was just like, well, sure, because it's not real. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And like, yeah, I
but
mean,
they're CG animals, so it's like, what are we doing here? Like, what's
right.
the point of this
So
besides
why
to make
exactly?
money?
What is
Like,
the
yeah,
point?
it doesn't
Mm-hmm,
make any sense. I
mm-hmm.
will say, part of your world is a bop, um, and as an accompanist, I've played it like hundreds of times for so
Have you
many.
heard Hallie's?
Yeah, yes. I did listen to some of the music because obviously
Mm,
whatever. But
mm,
I as an accompanist, I have played part of your world for like
mm,
so many singers, and
mm.
it's just a bop. It's a great. It's just a fun song to play, honestly.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I on that alone, I would say like homegirl can sing.
Mm.
Like, yeah, I give it a solid B. Last but certainly not least, I don't think we've actually talked about our thoughts on this.
I don't
Um,
know.
I have seen this. I have also read the arc that this uh uh ad-
Adaptation covers the East Blue
yeah,
Arc.
that it
Yeah,
adapts, and I've watched the arc that it adapts. So this is
yeah,
one of the only ones that I've done all three.
yeah.
I'm gonna let you lead. But where are you at?
Oh boy, maybe you should start. I have seen all of the adaptation, and I'm very far into the anime. Oh boy, this. It was not bad. It was not bad. Um, I think all of the actors really represented their characters
Mhm.
well. I do think homeboy that plays Zorro, as fine as he is, and he was also in one of the
You X, I think.
no,
No.
the other one, Rurouni Kenshin movies.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Um, he great, not the best actor. You know what I mean? He's a little wooden in his performances. And I think that Zorro, although he can be deadpan to a degree, is actually a emotional character, and I felt like that
Hmm.
was lost here. I hated Usopp in the beginning of the anime. Loved what Jacob has brought to him. Like weirdly, I'm like, how do you turn? He gave Usopp swag
I agree.
weirdly,
No,
and I
I
was just
agree. I
like,
completely agree. Yeah.
okay. So there are things that I love about it. There were things I did not love about it. There were as much money as they spent, and I feel like it's actually one of the most expensive shows that Netflix has ever made.
Hmm.
It still felt bare sometimes. It still
Interesting.
felt
Okay.
I remember feeling this exact way in the first episode where Luffy's on the ship with what's her face, the woman pirate, Alvira.
Hmm.
And like the ship is there and then the everywhere else is just dark. And it didn't look like the dark of being out in the sea at night. It looked like the dark of we only have production for you to be on this ship and there's a big blue screen around here and we're just going to keep it at. And I felt like wow, this just feels so empty and it feels so cheap. One Piece is one of the shows that I never would adapt, to be honest,
Hmm.
because I'm just like it relies so much in its animation because it's weird. It's a weird show
Yeah.
and it's visually weird. And I think to translate it grounds it, and I don't think it necessarily works as a grounded thing.
Hmm.
For sure, for me, it lives somewhere in between B and C.
Mm.
Um, and I don't know where I land. So I'd love to hear what you think as someone who's seen kind of all versions of this piece of the story.
I thought it was great.
Okay.
Like I, I when I heard about it, I was like, really? Like Luffy
Hmm.
is a cartoon character. He is a
Right.
cartoon character. Like,
Yeah.
how are you gonna pull this off? Like,
Hmm.
and I thought if in my head, if you get me to believe in this goofy ass character as a live action person,
Hmm.
then you've got me. As soon as I started to see production photos and they had actually built ships,
Yeah.
I disagree in it feeling cheap. That wasn't my initial like reaction to it.
Mm.
Maybe because I was colored by seeing all this production that they were putting in, and then Oda was involved,
Yeah. He
and,
was. Yeah.
like they like that these were functional ships that could be on the ocean, and I was like, are you
Right.
fucking kidding me? That's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
Um, so maybe I was just mesmerized by that, and not paying attention to like the things that had to do about the CGI. I thought the Gum Gum powers looked pretty. Like I don't know how you make them look better.
Right.
Um, and I believed most of the characters. I agree that Zoro was pretty one note.
Yeah.
I think Nami in the manga, the anime works a little better. Um,
Hmm.
I do think Usopp, who I hated,
Right.
as well, huge
Yeah.
upside. He's just cute.
And I felt so disrespected that he was the only brown man that we had. Yeah.
Yeah, he was adorable. Like
Yeah.
I just wanted. Like he was just a lion little buddy.
Mm-hmm.
I thought. Who's the pirate? Lol, the clown pirate.
uh, uh, Buggy.
I loved Buggy. I thought Buggy
Uh,
looked and felt great.
yeah.
And was just sadistic enough. I
Yeah.
thought the sharks felt good. I really liked Cook Homeboy, um,
Mm-hmm. Sanji.
Sanji. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I for me this is between an A and a B.
Well, then I'm okay with B. I mean, I think I worry about, for example, when we talk about the Gum Gum powers, sure, they looked good, but I also noticed that there was a limited use of them. So it was like we know how much Luffy relies on his powers, and like even that Arlong fight thing, he was barely gum gumming, and that nigga in the anime was
Mm-hmm.
just like,
Right.
we're gonna do the gaddle, and we're gonna do and so I'm just that, and then to me I go, well, that's a production choice.
Mm-hmm.
It's very expensive to fight that, and so that's what I mean. They're just like little moments like that I'd see, and then to be honest. when I think about Frankie coming on the show, honestly, Chopper, I'm just like, in my mind, I don't see it. I'm like, I don't know how
Mm.
they're gonna pull off Chopper and have like a robot, a skeleton, and like a literal all CGI fleshy animal. I'm like, I don't know. So yeah, what a
I
fairly even breakdown.
Yeah, I would. I think if I felt more strongly about One Piece as a franchise, I
Right.
would stick it in A.
Mm,
I would try to make the argument, but
mm.
it just looks so pretty. I think this actually is a pretty good summation.
Yeah.
For those who are listening, in D tier we have Dragon Ball Evolution, A Blank Space that could be M Night Shyamalan's Avatar: The Last Airbender, Ghost in the Shell, ScarJo's Ghost in the Shell, and the Netflix Full Metal Alchemist. In C tier, we have American Gods, Death Note, Cowboy Bebop, and Yu Yu Hakusho. B tier, Detective Pikachu, the Netflix Avatar: The Last Airbender, The Little Mermaid, and One Piece. A tier, Rurouni Kenshin, Game of Thrones, Edge of Tomorrow, and Blue Beetle. And in S tier, The Sandman and Bleach.
Yeah.
Um, and I'll have to go check out Bleach just to see what's going on.
Yeah.
But we're gonna go heavier at some point, y'all, into what makes a good live action adaptation,
Yeah.
because it's so if
We
not,
have lots of experience as filmmakers, and we just kind of want to bring our perspective and expertise to this conversation.
yeah, right, right. We are definitely journalists and
Hmm.
filmmakers, and you
Yeah.
should really listen to what we have to say
Absolutely.
about this topic. But I
Yeah.
think maybe a better framing would be what we want to see
Yeah.
in a live action adaptation, and uh, take what we like from all these different shows in their different tiers and don't like, and kind of figure out what our feelings are, because we're going to
Yeah.
keep seeing these live action adaptations because they make money,
Yeah.
and hopefully with our voices all held together, uh, they will get the feedback that we don't want shite for shite's sake.
Amen.
Um, and Jay, if you don't got anything else with that,
Yeah.
hope you've
I
enjoyed the
don't.
playback. Um,
Yeah.
Make sure to hit that subscribe button, leave a review. You can follow us on Instagram at Playblack Podcast, as well as TikTok. DM us there, do the thing, um, make tier lists, watch live action adaptations, bring some joy into your lives, and we'll see you back here soon.